Oh, okay. Sorry, Colton.
You're
See
good.
there? Run right past you.
Okay, that one's actually pretty quick. You're good.
Are we good to go?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I have a script to read before the meeting, and then I have another presentation that I would like to do before we start the full meeting. Good morning. I am Patsy Zeller and serve as the president of the Kansas State Board of Nursing, and I ask the members of the board to respond to a roll call to signify their presence at this open meeting that is being conducted remotely. Rebecca Sander.
Present.
Juliana Resnick.
Present.
Carol Bragdon.
Present.
Audrey Goldsmith.
Present.
Gwendolyn Lloyd.
Here.
Andrea Watson.
Present.
Giovanni Gone.
Present.
Gita Noble.
Present.
Aid Ramsdale.
Present.
I also ask the following staff members who are also present to respond. Carol Moreland, Executive Administrator.
Present.
Adrian Guerrero, Director of Operations.
Present.
Linda Davies, Practice Specialist.
Present.
Janelle Martin, Nursing Education Compliance Officer.
Present.
Chelsea Stevenson, Education Specialist, C&E.
Present.
Jill Simons, Executive Assistant.
Present.
Before we begin this meeting, I want to make the following statements regarding the meeting that is being conducted remotely. Public comment allows individuals to address the board about their concerns, but the Kansas Open Meeting Act, which is known as KOMA, does not require the board to provide public comment or answer questions from individuals. Today, we will not have public comment due to the length of the meeting and the possibility that the connection for the remote meeting may be lost. Because we are conducting this public meeting by Zoom and YouTube, I state for the record the following information. On March 8, 2021, the board sent notice to the meeting for the board to all individuals who have requested notice of the board's meetings. Additionally, the notice and agenda were posted on the board's website, ksbn.kansas.gov. The notice contains the internet links to attend the meeting by Zoom and YouTube. The notice also contains the Zoom telephone numbers to attend the meeting. These three electronic mediums allow the public to attend this meeting free of charge by either video conference or telephone. The notice also advised individuals to contact the board's office at 785-296-2967 if they experience a technical difficulty during the meeting. You may obtain a copy of the notice and the agenda at the website or by sending an email to Carol Moreland at ks.gov with the subject line request for the agenda, and the board staff will send it to you. The state of disaster emergency due to COVID-19 pandemic, as declared by Governor Kelly and extended by the Kansas legislature, will expire on March 31st, 2021. Because the requirements of KOMA are not suspended, we are conducting this meeting pursuant of KOMA and KAR 16-20-1 concerning compliance with the KOMA during the emergency declaration. The only mediums for interactive communication offered for this meeting are the connections by Zoom and YouTube, as previously stated. Each member of the board, board staff, or presenter shall state the person's name and title each time the person speaks or votes, as the case may be. Each participant to the meeting shall ensure microphones, phones, or other electronic devices are on mute when the participant is not speaking. Each motion will be clearly stated before the board votes, and the president will announce the results of the final vote. And a statement or motion will clearly identify and authorize by delegation each member of the board or staff who will be permitted to sign any document on behalf of the board. The meeting is being recorded, and the recordings will be posted to the board's website. The board has the following items listed on the agenda: call to order, review of on-site packet, additions or revisions to the board's agenda, announcements, approval of minutes of the board's meeting on December 2020, consent item agenda, agency reports, committee reports, unfinished business, new business, executive session if needed, agenda for 2021 board meeting, and adjournment. As noted above, the board may take an executive session. If the board elects to exercise the option to go into executive session, the board will follow this process. First, the board must be in open session before going into executive session. Then a motion will be made and seconded pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. The motion must contain a statement of justification for closure, the subjects to be discussed, and the time and place that the open meeting will resume. If a motion for executive session passes, the public will be excluded for this portion of the meeting, and the executive session will be conducted by electronic means that will not be made available to the public. The board members will return to the open meeting after the executive session. The open meeting will resume when the board members return to the Zoom and YouTube meetings after the executive session. The complete motion for an executive session will be recorded in the minutes. The meeting is now called to order, and the board will begin the meeting with the next item on the agenda. The recognition that I wanted to read is for Mandy Karstener. And before we start our business meeting today, I wanted to take a few moments to recognize the service and dedication of a member of our board who we sadly lost far too soon. Mandy Karstener joined the board in 2017, and she brought to the board her expertise as a practicing LPN, her knowledge of long-term care, along with her passion for public protection and of nursing. Mandy was a friend to all who knew her and was an honored colleague and member to members of our current and former board. Each year, the Board of Nursing awards one-time scholarships for students in pre-licensing nursing programs, professional or practical, and monies for the scholarships are donated by the company that produces our newsletter, the Arthur Davis Agency. In honor of Mandy's service to the board, we'll be awarding the nursing scholarships this year in her name to the nursing students selected for the scholarships to be awarded later at this meeting. We will also be sending a Ksbn board service plaque to the family that will be present to all board members who will serve on the board. And you see that here on the screen as I read this. Mandy's contributions to our board will be felt for many years to come. Our thoughts and prayers go out to her loving family and to the friends and colleagues of Mandy Karstener. She will be sorely missed. Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of her memory. Thank you. Thank you for that. I will continue with the agenda. The first thing that we have on our agenda is the call to order, which we are now doing, and review of the on-site packets, which I understand, Carol, we don't have any. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. There is no on-site packet.
The next piece is additions and revisions to the board agenda. And I do have one under new business. I would like to add to include executive session. Is there any other additions or revisions to the board agenda? Hearing none. Jill, I think you have a motion, correct?
Yes, I do. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Madam Chair, this is Rebecca. I so approve.
Giovanni Gonale, second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Do we have any announcements here? Anyone? Oh, hearing none, I'll move right to approval of the minutes for December 9th, 2020. Any clarifications or anything we need there after viewing the minutes? Okay, Jill, I'll let you read that motion.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the minutes from the December 9th, 2020 board meeting as written.
This is Carol Bragdon. I will second.
Carol, you'll make the motion, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, do I have a second?
This is Juliana Reshik. I'll second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Everyone in favor say yes.
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 Everyone opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you. The next item we have on the agenda is a consent item, and it is about the scholarships that we're going to present. We have that scheduled for 10:30, so I'm going to jump past that because that's when those recipients were told to be on the Zoom, so we can talk with them a few minutes at 10:30. So we'll come back to that part on the agenda. So that leaves me into agency reports, and we're going to start with executive administrator report.
Yes, Madam President and board members, this is Carol Moreland, and you do have my report under staff reports. So if you want to find that, if you're wanting to follow. The first thing, as I always do, I have the upcoming meetings for Ksbn listed on there. And it's my understanding that they're going to do all of their meetings through 2021 as virtual meetings. So, I think this has positive and negative. I know with more of their meetings being virtual, I personally have been able to join more than I would if I was traveling. So I just want you to know as board members that that's also an option for you. If you do want to join these virtual meetings, please let myself or probably Adrian know, and we can make sure that you get signed up for it. They have very good meetings. So just wanted to make sure that you know about that. The APRN roundtable, right now, Patsy and I will be attending that. But again, if there's anybody maybe out of the APRN committee or something that would like to attend that, just please let me know. The Nlc Spring Conference, that's actually the Nurse Licensure Compact Spring Conference. And I have the date of May 5th on there, but it's actually over several days. They're kind of breaking it up into different parts. The part that I'm involved with is on May 5th because I'm on the training and education subcommittee of that. So we're doing a little bit, but I think it's the first year that they've actually done the spring conference this way, but they're highlighting the different committees, and all of the committees are going to be offering different pieces of information. So I think it'll be very good. And then the Discipline Case Management Conference, I believe the ones that are attending so far that I know about are Linda, Adrian, and myself. But again, if there's others who want to go, just let me know. The annual meeting is again virtual, and this is where the business is done. And so we have voting delegates. And typically how this has been done is the voting delegates are the board president and the executive administrator. So unless you decide that you want to change that, that's probably the way that it will continue. So those two would definitely be attending because they'll be voting on the business. We do typically bring the whatever business that we know that they're going to have on the agenda to the meeting in June, if possible, so that you have a chance to see that. But if anybody else wants to attend that virtually, please let me know again. And then the NCLEX conference is in September. And then right now, the Board of Nursing investigator training, the two that are scheduled, all of our investigators have been to that. So if we hire new investigators and they're ready to go, that's certainly an option that we can get them into that. As far as COVID, that's still out there. Just a couple of highlights on the agency response. I'm not going to read all that, but I still continue to have the priorities that I had when we started this, and that is to keep the employees safe and decrease their chance of exposure in the workplace, that all the employees keep their jobs during this pandemic, and that the functions of the agency continue during the pandemic. This is continued from a year ago when we started this. 70% of our employees continue to work remotely and do, in my opinion, a very good job of working remotely. They have done a great job of adapting to that. You know, they're very flexible, and I can't say thank you enough to the employees because they're the reason that this has worked so well for our agency, and that's greatly appreciated. We have the COVID vaccination has been made available to our employees if they choose to take it. The questions start arising now is what does our agency look like post-pandemic? I don't have any answers. I have not gotten any direction from the governor as far as what the plans are. So maybe I'll know more about that in June, but just to reemphasize, our agency is open to the public. We do have 30% of our employees stationed within the agency. So we have people answering phones. The staff within the agency are doing a great job of scanning stuff that needs to be sent to those teleworking and things like that. So the process is working very well for our agency. Just to kind of let you know a little bit about the state of emergency declaration. You've heard in the scripts that it expires on March 31st, 2021, and that was via Senate Bill 14, which I did attach to this because when I put this packet together, that was the most current thing that we were kind of looking at. There's been just a little bit of change since then. There's been a Senate Bill 40 that's been passed through the legislature. Now it has, to my knowledge, it has not been signed by the governor yet, but it has been sent to the governor to be signed. And then it would have to be published in the Kansas Register in order for it to become effective. Once those two things occur, then the emergency disaster declaration would be extended to March 28th of 2021. This has been a continual thing for the past year, is this keeps getting extended. And then that means that we extend the licensure expiration dates also. And so what you all did, I believe, December maybe, I don't remember for sure, but you delegated to your board president that I could work with your board president to get approval to extend these license expiration dates each time, because there's a little bit of back end work that we have to do in our software and everything so that people would not become lapsed, you know, on April 1st, if indeed this gets extended to May 28th. So I just wanted to update you on that. So again, once we know that it's been signed and it's been published and stuff like that, then I will work with your board president to make sure that it's okay that we extend those license expiration dates out. Now, the thing with Senate Bill 440 is it does not have all of the individual provisions in there that Senate Bill 14 had. And you'll see in my report, I kind of did an overview of the provisions in Senate Bill 14. You know, one of them was that the APRNs employed to support a facility's response to COVID may work as necessary without the direction and supervision from a responsible physician. Well, these provisions that are listed here in that particular Senate Bill 14 expire on March 31st of 2021. All of these provisions are not individually listed in Senate Bill 40. So I will be working with legal counsel to make sure that we're communicating appropriately about these as to whether they're still in effect, they're not in effect, whatever. I know that I have been contacted by the Hospital Association, and they have big concerns that if the provision that says that a nurse licensed and in good standing in another state may practice as a nurse in the state of Kansas, if that's not extended, they have big concerns. I guess that is being utilized in some of the hospitals throughout the state. Again, we don't know that because they don't really do anything with us. The employer brings them in, and it's the employer's responsibility to make sure that their license from another state is in good standing. So we don't really know how many nurses are in the state under that provision practicing. But I will just tell you, I've been notified by the Hospital Association, and they had some concerns if that particular provision was not taken forward. Okay, you do also have a letter from the college presidents in there. And I did receive this. I think Patsy's going to talk a lot more about this when she does her report for the Education Committee. So I'm not going to say anything more about that. The budget, just kind of let you know, the governor's recommended budget made no changes for fiscal year 21, 22, and 23 from the budgets that I submitted. I did go over and testify to the legislature on both the House and the Senate committees. And they had some good questions. A lot of the questions were around K-Tracks and how did the board feel about, continuing to fund K-Tracks. And so I shared with them the direction that you had given me. And that is that we're very, very supportive of K-Tracks. We feel it's very important for the safety of the citizens of Kansas. However, that we would like to have a permanent solution to the funding of K-Tracks instead of the transfer of funds out of the license fees that tends to occur. Because right now for fiscal year 22 and 23, we're scheduled to have $70,000 transferred each year out of our fee fund for K-Tracks. But right now, the appropriation bills, House Bill 2397 and Senate Bill 267 do have our requested appropriations in them. Those have not been finalized yet, but I don't anticipate that it's probably going to change any based on how it was received in the budget committees. They were very favorable to our budgets. We did ask for an increase in fiscal year 22 so that we could replace the data center hardware and we could purchase the enforcement module so that will help the investigative section. And they felt that those were all very appropriate requests. Regulation revisions. I think we're going to talk just a little bit about this also in Patsy's education report, but the undergrad nursing program regulations are the ones that are out there working on requested revisions. So you're going to hear more about that. The legislative session, it's been very busy. They've introduced a lot of bills. So tracking those bills sometimes is a bit challenging, but we utilize CanFocus. And so actually you see that in the packet, you see my tracking. We can actually create a tracking bill report, and I put one in there. It's not the most current one because it's changed since then, but that is one way that I can track it. You can put key terms in there like nursing, healthcare, and so it's going to pop up when there's a bill introduced that has those terms in it. That is one way to do it because things change pretty fast over there. You know, there's been a lot of interest in occupational licensing over there, making it easier, decreasing some of the regulations to get licensed in the state. And it's not just for nursing, it's occupational licensing period, kind of across the thing. And there's one bill that has advanced some that I think is getting close to probably being heard on. I think it made it out of the House and now it's probably on the Senate side. This is the last week that they're working in committees, and then next week they work on the floor, and then they go to conference committees, and then they're actually on break for most of April. So the committee work, I think, is kind of starting to get finished, hopefully. There's two that I wanted to make you aware of: Senate concurrent resolution number 1609 and House concurrent resolution number 5014. I attached both of those. Both of these would amend the Constitution of the state of Kansas to give legislative oversight for administrative rules and regs. And what that basically says, if you read those, they could revoke or they could suspend rules and regulations that executive agencies have adopted. We are an executive agency. We're underneath the executive branch. So Again, I think there's kind of a push to see less regulation, and this would perhaps give the legislature a little bit more control about revoking some of our regulations if they didn't feel that they were necessary. Because right now, in statute, we're given authority to do rules and regulations. And so that gives the agency the ability to do those rules and regulations. Now, there's still checks and balances. And when we do a regulation or we revise a regulation, one of the steps is that we have to go to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules and Regs. And that is both representatives and senators that make up this committee. And you go over and you present any revisions or any new ones, or if you want to revoke one or something like that to them, and they have the ability to give you feedback. And it's written comment, just like it's written comment from anybody else. It always goes back to the board if they want to make changes. But this would give them a little bit more power than I believe they have presently. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. That is something that we're watching. Agency updates, I always put it in here. We have one board member position, the LPN board member position open, and the appointment secretary at the governor's office is aware of that. I don't know if there's any action that's been taken on that from over there yet. And then just to make you aware that we have 2 board members whose terms expire the end of June. That is Carol and Juliana. And this is Carol's 2nd term. So unfortunately, she cannot go for reappointment. And then Juliana, it's her 1st term. So if she chooses, she can apply to the governor's office for reappointment. So just want to make you aware of that. I have the agency vacancies there. We are going to be filling some of those, interviewing for them and hopefully filling those. The rest of it, I think, is there and you can read it as you want to. I just wanted to kind of read my own little script now. You've heard other scripts read, but this one is kind of mine. We actually have 2 agency staff who are going to be retiring the end of this month. So I just wanted to give them recognition. They're not actually able to join us today, but the fact that we have this recorded and available on our website, they certainly can listen at any point if they would like to hear this recognition. But I just want to take a few moments to recognize the service and the dedication of them. Both of these staff members have served with the highest level of service, integrity, and dedication to the mission of the Board of Nursing. They've each done their part to assure the citizens of Kansas safe and competent practice by nurses and mental health technicians. The first staff member that I want to recognize is our investigator, Mickey Walker. We will be giving a plaque to Mickey. We're having a retirement celebration for these 2 employees in a few days, and that's when they will get these plaques. Just to let you know a little bit about Mickey, she joined the staff of Ksbn in the early 2015, where she quickly picked up on her role as investigator. She worked through the many cases assigned to her with dedication and focus on the mission of Ksbn. The great work that she's done ensures that she will not be forgotten anytime soon by our agency. What she has achieved at Ksbn has made quite an impact, and that's not easy to do these days. I just want to say a very big thank you to Mickey for being a tireless professional, helpful coworker, and a good friend to the team. We certainly wish her the best in retirement. And then our second staff member that we want to recognize is another investigator, Beth Peters. She also will get a plaque here in a few days. Beth joined us in mid-2017, and like I said, she's also an investigator. She joined us after her time serving at KDHE. She was a very quick learner, and like Mickey, she worked through the many cases assigned to her with dedication and focus on the mission of Ksbn. Working with Beth has been an immense pleasure for the past few years. Her graciousness about the people for whom she works with and her ability to make all feel welcome always impressed me. She's always passionate, calm, and professional all the time. I don't think that's easy to do sometimes as an investigator, but Beth did it. It's clear that her dedication to the investigative department has made a huge positive impact on our agency, and she will be greatly missed. So I just want to thank both of them for their service to Ksbn and to the citizens of Kansas. If you could join me for a minute, just as a round of applause to both of them, so that if they do watch this video, that they will hear that we do appreciate it. If you would do that, I would appreciate it. Thanks, clapping. All right, thank you for that. I will stand for any questions if you have any questions. It's a lot of information, sorry. There's been a lot going on.
This is Patsy. Does the board have any questions for Carol at this point? Any clarification? Not hearing any. I'm going to go straight to the staff reports. And Adrian, Director of Operations, would you give your report?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. You should see my report in your packet. I will say this quarter has probably been the most stressful quarter that I've ever had. And it was all good things. A lot of our projects, as I talked about in Finance Committee, were kind of coming to completion. We had an imaging project that was a multi-month thing that came to fruition. But definitely the biggest thing that occurred this quarter was, and for the new members, this is a very long project, but we finally got our data center moved to our new location. There was a lot of moving parts, a lot of people involved in this, but long story short, what occurred is we got very late notice that the data center on the 7th floor of our building, where we've been located for well over, probably almost 15 years now, was closing. And for some reason, we were left off the notification list. So we got all of about 2 weeks to prepare to move. Now, we had been doing a lot of work to get ready for that over those past years, but as you might imagine, it was like it was always moving down the field. We never seemed to make it to the completion. And so we had to hurry up and rush. And with the age of some of our equipment, that's where the stress was. We were very concerned that we were going to have an issue with one particular device. So I really want to give, public credit to Tony and Colton for all the work they did to get this project done. I always use the analogy because my dad worked in the electrical company, but when you turn on your light switch and your light comes on, you just get used to doing that. Or when you turn on your water faucet and the water comes out, you don't really ever think about all of the work that goes in to make that happen. And really the digital plumbing of our network is the same. When staff come in and turn their computers on and they can do their daily work, we consider that a good day. When licensees can get on and renew their licenses and we don't hear from them other than, they've completed their required process, that's a good day. But to move all of your equipment and all of your security and all of your data and deal with all of that that's involved takes a lot of work and time. So I was pleased to say at this meeting that although it was very, very, very stressful during that time period, and when we kept Patsy and Carol fully in the loop of everything that occurred during that project, it basically did that. We went down on the Friday and we were up Sunday. We worked all night, but but it actually worked. And so, a few days before, there was a major snowstorm. So, all of these things that were making stress happen. Now, that being said, we basically have moved our old equipment into the new environment, which is great. That's where we wanted to be. But as you heard in the budget, we're going to need to replace the equipment. And so there's still a lot of work to happen. But I did want to credit the team for that because that was a ton of work. And then some other things that we've been working on, we're evaluating positions, kind of readjusting some of our priorities. We're working on documentation. Colton's going to be taking on some of that, and Tony's been working on the new infrastructure. So we're trying to gather all of that so we get everything a little more organized. And as such, we're working on our security policies with our new CI or ISO, Nathan, who's with the OITS office. He's been meeting with me almost weekly, and we're going through policies and incident response and that sort of thing to keep all of that fresh and up to date. And then there's another thing that occurred that even the staff doesn't know about yet. But we finally got the soft phones working, which I know that seems like that shouldn't be a big issue. But that was a long project to get that working. And so we're testing it, and we're just trying to make sure everything's going to work okay. But we've deployed laptops to Linda's team and to some of the other, we still have a few little areas to get them out to. You're going to hear about a request for that, but this has been very successful with everybody being remote, having the laptops and the video. That makes these kind of meetings easier instead of having to dial in and whatnot. But the poor teams had to deal with us trying to get phones available for them. All of the hardware equipment phones was replaced by the state this quarter. Just a lot of projects came to head. So other than that, I have been very busy with the NCSBN duties as well as my role as treasurer. I consider it an honor to serve. My term is actually up for my first term as treasurer, and I have placed my intent to run for re-election at the Delegate Assembly this year. It'll be virtual. Normally I bring that to you before I submit the application, but the way that the meeting and the deadlines held, I actually had to have it turned in last Friday. So, but I have signaled my intent to run for re-election, and that would be my last term at that point, if it's successful. And other than that, that's been the big things for me this quarter. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions
Thank you.
for Adrian? Okay, thank you. We'll move to the next staff report, and I have Linda next.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This is Linda Davies, practice specialist. You have my report in your packet under staff reports. I'm not going to read it to you, but I'll just give you some highlights. The report format is evolving to reflect number of cases open, type of case opened, and include sources of cases. Cases result from two avenues: from a complaint alleging unprofessional conduct and from applications that have legal history that may affect licensure. And some cases may also have multiple complaints. So in the past, only the number of cases was reported. We are changing the format to report not only number of cases, but complaint data that includes type and source, as well as tracking of the data from date of incident to the date that we actually received the allegation to the date of case resolution. So we can see what the timeline is internally, as well as how fast we were actually notified of the actual violation. This effort is to gather data also so that we can identify current trends, which may allow us to help create additional education that may be needed. During this last year with COVID, Ksbn has seen an increase in the reporting of impairment and drug diversion at work. And this trend actually mirrors what is going on across the country with the rise in substance use and mental health issues. We have also seen a decent amount of complaints and concerns that have been presented in practice calls that relate to non-adherence to policy and procedure. Both of these areas we note to be related to the increase in stress that the nursing profession and the staff on the floors at hospitals and clinics as they respond to the pandemic. So Kansas numbers in both of these areas are in line with what other states are seeing as well. Been on various conference calls through NCSBN with other states, and these are the same type of things that they're seeing across the country. The review of policies and procedures internally is ongoing. I don't think it will ever be an end in sight, at least not in the next year or so, but we have a lot of things that we're trying to kind of update, and having allowed us to work remote also, None of our policies and procedures indicate that, so we are trying to update those as well to reflect what is necessary for staff to understand in being remote setting. We anticipate the hiring, as Carol has mentioned, and onboarding of new RN investigators over this next quarter. In addition to some virtual trainings, I've also attended the demo for the enforcement module that was mentioned in the Finance Committee, as well as I think in the budget review by Carol, that will allow for the investigative division to operate more electronically and provide a means to collect data more efficiently. As you know, we've been completely paper up until I took my position in the end of 2019. So that is my report, and I stand for questions. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Linda. Any questions or clarification for Linda? Okay, we'll move to the next staff report, and that's Janelle.
Thank you, Madam President. This is Janelle Martin, Nursing Education Compliance Officer. My staff report is also in the packet. As others have stated, it's been a busy quarter for education as well. COVID continues to keep things interesting and hopping for all the nurse administrators, which in turn keeps us hopping with trying to support them as well. Some nursing updates. Benedictine College has a new director of nursing programs. Jackie Harris joined them in December. Rasmussen University has had an interim, but they have named a new dean for both their ADN and BSN programs. Dr. Sharon White-Lewis has joined them beginning January 11th. Wichita State, I believe we mentioned that Dr. McClary Jones is transitioning to a full-time associate dean of the College of Health Sciences, and so they've hired an interim School of Nursing chair position. Deborah Pyle will be taking that on, and she took that on as of February 1. Osawatomie State Hospital and the LMHT program have seen several changes in the last quarter. There's a new director of education who kind of oversees all education and is named a new director for the program. The former one did leave. And so Brianna Bishop has taken that spot as the new director for both overseeing the program for both campuses at Larned and Osawatomie. One correction I have at Hutchinson Community College, the PN program has had a campus in Fort Riley, and they are not closing that site. They are suspending the program after this graduating class in May. They wanted to leave that open in case that becomes viable for them again. So suspending and not closing that site. Site visits have been fast and furious this quarter. The board did make a decision to make all those virtual. So we have done that, and the program administrators have done a great job of working with us on virtual resource rooms and getting us information. It's remarkable how quickly things can change. And we've just had some great experiences and some best practices, I think, that we can document to help others should we need to continue to do it this way. And 2 of our visits were done in conjunction with accreditation, which also went very well. It's a little bit more of a burden, I think, can be for the program, but they were handled extremely well. And both CCNE and ASIN, the groups that we worked with, were very accommodating, very collegial, and made for a very good visit. One visit we did that I missed it. Salina Area Tech had their ADN program had their first follow-up after graduation visit in February, and I failed to get that on my list, but I wanted to add that we did that visit as well. The LMHT program did see some suspension during COVID of their program, but they were able to resume late in 2020, so they were able to see their class graduate this January. Larned had their first 3 graduates, and we did give an LMHT exam on February 3rd for the 7 graduates that made it through this extended year. FQRs, I wanted to commend our administrators are doing a great job with our electronic process. Issues that we've had are dwindling rapidly, and then new folks are picking it up very, very well. So it was a very busy quarter. We have a lot of people again still needing to hire adjunct faculty as COVID has created some changes for clinical sites, that they are decreasing the numbers of students allowed, which also creates some issues for the programs as they have to hire more administrators to get their students out into different sites and through their clinicals. But I think they're in many ways just happy that the clinical sites are still allowing them to come, even if it's in smaller groups. So that's been a positive. I think I wanted to mention, we don't mention a lot about petitioners, but I did want to mention that this last quarter, we actually had 8 completions, and that's actually been the last about 4 or 5 months. I didn't mention it last time, but that's good for us in terms of getting people through completion. And I wanted to mention that we still have 24 active petitioners at this point. I think I'd mentioned last time that we are trying to move our minor curriculum change to an electronic process, which we were in the process of doing when, as Adrian mentioned, the data center and some of those things kind of took priority. So we will be getting back to those things as soon as those other ones settle down a little bit. But we are really hoping to move that and the petitioning process to an online process. I think that will help expedite a lot of things that, especially as we're still working remotely. One big change for this year, we have been working on a new annual report draft. We are switching formats for our annual reports for the programs. There will be some orientation set up here in the next 30 days or so. The board will get to see that today as well. It went through the education committee yesterday as you approved it in December. And so we are moving forward with that, and it's looking good. And Ksbn has been very, very good to work with. They've worked with us on how to make it as accessible as possible and as easy to get questions answered as possible. And they've been very supportive of us in the process in doing this. We are probably, I think they have currently about 7 or 8 folks. COVID kind of cut down on the number, I think, who might have piloted it last year. But we will be among the first to see the core data come together in a national database, and we'll be part of that. So I think that's a great process for us to be a part of. We'll be meeting our scholarship winners a little bit later. I just wanted to let you know we did have 46 completed applications, which was up from last year. I was glad to see that. And it was truly, I really want to thank the 5 board members who took their time to look at all of those and to give their feedback. And I know the scholarship winners were very, very appreciative of the work that you did in bringing that forward. So it'll be fun to meet them when they come later. One last thing, it's not in my report, but I did mention this at the education committee. One of the questions that continues to come up for me in the education area is, and especially with the COVID, we've dealt with that, is the question of simulation and clinical sites that are closing. We've encouraged, sites to continue to work with our programs, and most have been successful. I still get questions about, what if I can't get them? And I continue to go back to, this came to the board in December, and I just want to clarify and restate what the board stated at the last meeting. And that was that the committee was in agreement that regulation requires in-person clinical hours for a student to have course completion, and that completion of a course or graduation may be delayed if that type of experience is delayed due to the pandemic. We understand that, we're supporting them in that, but do continue to feel that our regulations support the in-person clinical for across the lifespan. So I just wanted to make sure that we continue to kind of try to keep everybody on the same page, but I know it's been difficult for some of them, but for the most part, it's just been very rewarding to see how faculty and administrators have responded and kept students going. And at the site visits anyway, we continue to get really very, very good feedback from the students and what they've experienced during the pandemic. So I know that's only 7 of the programs that we have, but I think it's a good indication of where students are. And with that, I will conclude that report and would be open to any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Janelle? Thanks, Janelle, for that report. I'm going to move to the next part of the agenda, knowing that at 10:30 we'll have our recipients of the awards will be on, so we'll stop and make that adjustment in the agenda. But I'm going to move to the Education Committee report, and at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Rebecca Sander, so she can run the meeting while I give that report.
Okay.
I do have a couple explanations for the motions. Chelsea's going to read those, and I'm going to say after she reads those that I so move because I'm making that motion. But when she gets to the one that I want to do a little bit of an explanation, I'll have her go ahead and read it, and then I'll do some explanation before I say that I make that motion so that you will be informed about that a little bit. There's 2 places in there that I need to do that. So I guess, Chelsea, will let you start with the motions that we had.
Sure. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report for Kansas Wesleyan University, changing their approval status from conditional approval to full approval of the BSN program until spring of 2023.
This is Patsy, and I so move.
Is there a second to the motion?
This is Juliana, and I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those that oppose, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the focus site visit report for Seward County Community College with plans to place the program on conditional approval if final 2020 NCLEX pass rates are not above regulatory standard of 75%, with a follow-up site visit to occur in 1 year.
This is Patsy, and I so move.
Do I hear a second?
This is Carol Bragdon. I will second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Those that approve say aye.
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 Those that oppose say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the focus site visit report for Colby Community College with plans to schedule a reapproval site visit at the time of national accreditation.
This is Patsy, and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Jade Ramsdell. I second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those that oppose say nay. Any abstention? Pardon? Those that oppose say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report for Johnson County Community College, reapproving the PN program for a time period of 5 years.
This is Patsy, and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Juliana. I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Those that approve say aye.
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 Aye. Those that disapprove say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the site visit report for Baker University, reapproving the BSN program for a time period of national accreditation.
This is Patsy and I so move.
This is Carol
Do I
Bragdon.
hear a
will
second? Who was that?
This is Carol Bragdon.
Thank you, Carol. It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change for Flint Hills Technical College to include IV therapy into the LPN curriculum beginning fall 2021.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Jade Ramsdell. I second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change for Mid-America Nazarene University, adding an additional credit hour to the Ksbn Fundamentals course and deducting 1 credit hour from another course so that the overall program hours remain the same.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
Giovanni Gonale, second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change for Kansas City Community College to eliminate NUPN 0134 3 credit hours, adding medical terminology, application of assessment, and clinical judgment, all 1 credit hour each.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Carol Bragdon. I will second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change for Donnelly College, adding a daytime cohort of 25 starting August 2021.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Jade Ramsdell. I second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change for Washburn University graduate program, changing NU 803 from 1 credit hour to 2 credit hours, and changing NU 906 from 3 credit hours to 2 credit hours.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Gita Noble, and I will second that.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change for Newman University graduate program to transition from entry-level master's program to entry-level doctoral program.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Carol Bragdon. I will second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the major curriculum change for Seward County Community College to revise level 1 and level 2 nursing courses, providing a structured build upon education across the lifespan, providing cohesive active learning.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Juliana and I'll second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea with the Board of Nursing Staff. I do apologize. My laptop just froze, so I am not able to scroll down on these motions. I believe
I have them in front of me.
And I also believe Jill Simons has them as
Yeah,
well.
I have them as well, so I
Okay.
can take over until your laptop is back.
Thank you, Jill. I'm going to restart. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve 2020 NCLEX first-time pass rates as written.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
Giovanni Cornell, second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea. I believe I am up and running again. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to make the implementation date for all revised education regulations effective January 1st, 2022.
This is Patsy, and before I make that motion, this is one of the motions I wanted to clarify just a bit. Carol mentioned in her report that we received a letter from community college presidents, and some of the information in that letter reflected the struggle with COVID and the clinical sites, and some struggle with pass rates, a possible event that may be pass rate struggle this next year as we start testing the students. The other concern in that letter was about the revised regulation that we have in process now that was a 50% simulation piece. That meant that the live clinicals needed to be the other 50 per course. So that is the concern of this. And so the motion was made that we would put on the newly revised regulations that are still in process, we would put an implementation date that would be January 1, 2022, giving the schools a chance to make plans how they were going to address the fallout of COVID, et cetera, and the clinical sites. So that motion was made, but I'd like for Carol Moreland to give us a little bit of explanation about the newly revised. They're not new regulations, they're just revised from the ones that we had, but they're still in the process. So I'd like for her to go through what those were and also the process of how those are approved. So you will know when you vote on this, what you're really voting on and what that really means to the finishing up of the regulations that we've been working on for 2 or 3 years now. So Carol, would you help me out?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam President. We started this process probably 2 or 3 years ago, and the Education Committee looked at all the education regulations, both undergraduate, advanced practice, and licensed mental health technician. When you look at the regulations, they kind of mirror each other to some extent, except for the LMHT. They're very different. So the committee worked on revisions. They looked at national benchmarks, all of that, worked on revisions. There's like 10 undergraduate education regulations that we started through the process. And I just want to take a moment just to kind of share with you what the process is when an existing regulation is revised, because it is rather intensive. And I think sometimes if you're not aware of that, it appears that things are not happening. But once it comes out of committee with the revisions that they want, then it goes to the board. The board approves those revisions and directs me to start it through the process. At that point in time, they start out with the division of budget, and we also have to do like a fiscal impact. How would this impact our agency? How would this financially impact licensees, agencies, and stuff like that? Once they're stamped from the Department of Budget, then they go to Department of Administration. Department of Administration looks a lot at the grammar and making sure that it's put together in the format that it should be put together. So anytime we make revisions, we tend to maybe not get it in the format that it needs to. So it needs to go back and forth a little bit to get the right format. And then once they're all stamped from the Department of Administration, then they go to the Attorney General's office. And there's 2 assistant attorney generals that look at these. They actually look at them for the legal, the statutory. Do we have the authority to do what we're wanting to do? And sometimes it comes to light that we're asking for something that we don't have the authority to do. So we need to make some changes. You know, along this whole path, it's very interesting because people that don't have the nursing knowledge look at these and they bring a totally different perspective to these. And it usually comes to light that there's things that are not real clear and things that we're able to clear up. They make sense to us because some of us have lived nursing our whole life. But if you're outside of nursing, they don't always make the most sense and they're not real clear. So that's an opportunity also for us to clarify them. Now, once they all get stamped from the Attorney General's office and they've been stamped from those 3 areas, then we set a public hearing date, okay? And that date has to be at least 60 days out because there's several things that have to take place during those 60 days. Once we set a public hearing date, we need to publish in the Kansas Register that public hearing date and a copy of all of the proposed revisions. Once then it is published in the Kansas Register, during that 60-day period, anyone can give us public comment. And we do require the public comment to be written because all the comments that we receive go to the board to review. So the public can comment during that time. Also, what happens during that 60 days is we are scheduled with the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules and Regs. That's a committee over at the legislature that again has representation from the House of Representatives and the Senate. I go over and I present the revisions. And at that point in time, they can ask any questions. Typically they want a little bit of clarification because there's not usually nursing or much that have healthcare backgrounds on that committee. So again, it's an opportunity to do some education, but what they will also do is prepare written comments that come back, and those also will go to the board. Then it comes to the public hearing. The public hearing we usually do by conference call, but it's published, it's on our website, it's been in Kansas Register. Anyone can join that and give comment. All that we ask is if they give verbal comment, that they follow it up in written comment. Again, so that those written comments will go to the board. And so I think that's important because anyone is going to have the opportunity to provide comment on these changes, these proposed revisions that you all have put forward. After the public hearing, then we gather all of the written comments that we have received from everyone. Those are put in the board packet. Now the board decides whether they want to review this at the next scheduled board meeting, or there's always the option that a special board meeting could be called if you felt that was necessary. That's totally up to board. The board reviews all of the comments. They review the proposed revisions again. If they want to make changes, then they make whatever changes that they want based on comments, and it starts through the process again. However, if the board looks at these and say, you know, we're fine with how they are, we're ready to approve them, then we do a roll call for each of the regulations. And then once they're approved by the board, there's kind of a certification process that I have to do. And then the adopted regulations get published in the Kansas Register, and then they're effective 15 days after that publication. So I just wanted to review that process because it is a very long process, and it can, anytime there's changes made anywhere in this process, it has to start over again. So that's what's happened. You know, we've been working on this, and there's 10 undergraduate regulations. They're at various stages in this, truthfully. My goal when I started this was to keep them all together, because to me, it makes more sense that they're all together, because it talks anywhere about the approval process for a nursing program, to the reapproval process, to faculty and preceptor, to curriculum, to clinical resources, to student records, to the educational facilities itself, the physical facilities. And then it also talks to the annual report that they have to do. Now, as these have been going through the stages, they have gotten a little bit separated. That seems to have worked better for the agencies that have been reviewing these, is to separate them out. So they're not all at the same stage right now. I think the majority, there's like 2 that I'm still working with Department of Administration on a few minor changes. And then I believe they've been through the Department of Budget. And so those 2 then would have to start over with Department of Budget once those minor changes have been made. And so then hopefully they would be approved by Department of Administration and then ready to go to the AG's office. So I hope that answers your questions. Is that kind of what you wanted me to cover, Madam President?
It is. I just wanted an overview of tacking on an implementation date that we would expect these to become law for us. It puts a little bit of a bump in the road getting these completed. But in respect of the concerns that the college presidents had in that letter and other schools have expressed, that was the motion that was made there. I see that it's close to 10:30. Would it be okay with everyone if we step out and do the awards and then we'll come back to this? We don't have a motion on the floor yet. So Rebecca, if it's okay with you, I'll take the meeting back and then we'll come back to this.
That's fine, Madam President.
Thank you. So Colton, we have some of the students that received the awards. I think we're going to talk to them a little bit on here. So I'll just start with the first one and we'll see if she's on. I want to talk a little bit about the undergrad nursing scholarship, a little bit about it. And then we can put the first person on that we can talk to. So this undergraduate nursing scholarship is something that's provided by Arthur Davis, who publishes our quarterly newsletter. And for many years now, they have helped us with $1,000, 4 of those, to be able to give to students. And what we've done is had an essay that we have them write, and then the selection was made. Janelle talked about that in her report. And so these were the recipients of those awards. And they're awarded in Mandy Karstener's name this year, as I read previously at the beginning of the meeting. So the RN students that we have, the first one I have is Amy Riffle.
That one I'm not seeing.
I think Amber and Amanda are here.
So Amanda Coatney, I hope I said that right. Let's do that one. That's an RN one.
That one I just moved over.
Okay, so Amanda Coatney, can you hear us?
Sorry, forgot I was on mute. Yes, I can hear you.
So I'm going to request a couple things from you. Your director and dean, Lisa Larson, and Dr. Cynthia Teal were two of dean and director from your school. So will you just tell us what school you're from and what you plan to do after graduation, if you already have a job or what's your plan?
Yeah, so I'm a third year student in Salina at KU, so University of Kansas Nursing School. I actually just accepted at least one, it's not a job yet, but I accepted a scholarship to continue education at Salina Regional after I graduate. So I'm not sure what area I would like to choose yet because I'm still in my third year. I'm still getting some experience, but I will be in Salina at Salina Regional Health Center.
Well, congratulations to you. And your check, we're going to send you your check and your award certificate so that you can see that. And Colton's going to show that here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We appreciate your willing to put in the submission for the essay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for everything you do.
Appreciate it. Then I'm also going to move now to Amber Liba. Is that how you say that name?
I apologize. Every time I share, it changes everything.
That's okay, Colton. We're all right.
Okay.
I'm not seeing Amber, but I am seeing Emily.
Okay. Then let's go to that
I
person.
got Amber.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Amber, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
Thank you for coming today. Your dean or director for your program is Pat Plank. And I just wondered if you'd give us the same information about the school you're from and what your plans are after graduation.
Okay. I attended WSU Tech for their practical nurse program. Started in January and just ended this past December. And I am currently working at Newton Medical Center in Newton, Kansas. I started there as a nurse tech, and I am transitioning into my LPN role now. And I plan to continue working with them throughout the next couple of years, but I'm also starting with Washburn University to do diagnostic ultrasound this fall. So I just got accepted into that program, and we'll see where that takes me.
Well, congratulations. And this is a picture of your certificate you're receiving in the mail, along with your check for that scholarship.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I was really excited to get this.
Thank you very much. And the next I have on here is Emily. Is she on there?
I'm here.
Emily Domke, is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, it's Domke.
Okay. I appreciate you being on today. And your director is also Pat Plank.
Yeah.
And I wondered,
Sorry.
that's okay. If you could tell us what program you're from and what your plans are for the future after graduation.
Yeah, I went to the same program as Amber. We were both WSU Tech practical nurse students. And like she said, we just graduated in December. I just passed NCLEX last month. So I'm working as a nurse at a family med clinic. Actually training in peds this week. So that's been different and scary for me. Anyway, yeah, and I'm thinking about, definitely getting my RN so I can work in an ICU as a nurse.
That's terrific. We appreciate it. Here also is your certificate you receive in the mail, along with your check with your scholarship money.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on today.
Thank you.
Okay, the last person I have here for awards is the RN student, and it's Amy Riffle.
I'm still scrolling through and I'm not seeing them. It could be that maybe we have a different name on Zoom.
I I don't, it should be Amy, and I don't see Lori either, who is her. They both planned to be here, but I'm sorry, I didn't get any information that they wouldn't.
Okay, so I'll give us the information instead of delay the process of the board meeting. Amy Riffle, she's from Salina Area Technical College ADN program. Lori Farber is her director, and we also will send her certificate and her scholarship monies to her. Thanks for doing that. And thanks, Colton, for putting all that on the screens for us.
Yeah, not a problem.
That's her certificate. So if it's okay with the rest of the group, I think maybe we could take a little bit of a break and then we'll come back and finish up the education report. 10 minutes, 15. Tell me what's the flavor of the group here. 10 minutes. How about we come back at 10:50?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colton, are we ready to resume our meeting?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca, I'm going to field some questions with the presentation, and then I'll hand the meeting back to you to finish the rest of the motions that we
Okay.
have. So
Okay,
any
thank
questions? So any questions that anyone has about the motion that we have here, if you reference that letter that Carol was talking about in her report, the request was for some flexibility in some of the revised regulations that we had upcoming. And so the motion was made in trying to, as much flexibility as we could have would be that we would put the implementation date at a certain time, and it would not be, it would be known to all the schools when that implementation date would start with all the regulations. So any questions from anyone? Not hearing any. I'm going to let Chelsea go ahead and read that motion again.
Sure. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? I'm so sorry, one second. It was moved to make the implementation date for all revised education regulations effective January 1, 2022.
This is Patsy, and I so move.
Do I hear a second?
This is Adri Goldsmith. I second.
Any discussion?
This is Carol Bragdon. Just for clarification purposes, that would be all regulations then have to go back through the process?
That's the way I understand it, unless we would separate out. There's two of the regulations. One has about the 80% pass rate, and another one that has about the 50% that targets mostly with the simulation hours. The confusion was that some would be come into effect whenever we got them through the process, whatever time that would be, maybe in this year. And the other ones, even if they came this year, would not be in effect until the beginning of the year. But you're right, Carol, that the motion was for all of them.
Thank you.
There any more questions or issues? Well, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-1-103 as written as a part of the 5-year legislative review process.
This is Patsy, and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Adri Goldsmith. I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-17-110 as written as a part of the 5-year legislative review process.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
Andrea Watson, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-17-111 as written as a part of the 5-year legislative review process.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
Giovanni Cornell, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-5-103 as written as a part of the 5-year legislative review process.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Juliana and I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KSA 60-4206 as written as a part of the 5-year legislative review process.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Jill Bragdon. I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KSA 65-4207 as written as a part of the 5-year legislative review process.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Jade Ramsell. I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Motion carried. Oh, any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the report from the Academic Partnerships Subcommittee and request that the education specialist recommend a means of tracking for these partnerships.
This is Patsy and this is another motion I'd like to just elaborate on just a little bit. We had put a task force together in the Education Committee that looked at practice and academic partnerships with students being able to receive some reimbursement. They were working, but they were also doing clinical time there with a preceptor. They did some exploration with that and brought back a report to the committee. And this is the recommendation that came from that we would record some of the details of that and the successes of that and keep record of that for us at the committee. Nothing else more than that, but that's what this motion was. So any questions about that? Okay, Chelsea, I'll let you read that one more time, please.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to accept the report from the Academic Partnerships Subcommittee and request that the education specialist recommend a means of tracking for these partnerships.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
Andrea Watson, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to extend the time to complete the clinical observation for petitioners due December 31st, 2020 until June 30th, 2021.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Adri Goldsmith. I second.
Any discussion?
The only discussion that I have is some clarification that the clinical observations were pretty much shut down for some of these petitioners at the end of the year. And so the committee felt like they could give them 6 more months to complete that because of the struggle with finding a clinical site. So.
Thank you. Makes sense. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion, abstentions, any abstentions? Motion carried.
This is the final motion for Education Committee. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the petition for permission to retest summary from November 18th, 2020 through February 18th, 2021, which includes Arwa Bashir, Connie Batorf, Diana Oliveris, and Jessica Schoder.
This is Patsy and I so move.
Is there a second?
This is Gita Noble, and I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Motion carried.
The last thing I have on my report from the Education Committee is just to let you know about another task force we put together. And it was about trying to help give some more guidance with the site visits, for the school site visits and approval. And that group sat together and we brought some recommendations back for an algorithm in several different areas for site visits. And we're still working on that. We will bring that back in June, and it will be a draft that the Education Committee will be able to look at. Right now, we're still finalizing that. And with the plan being that in June, if the committee gives us permission, we'd like to pilot that in the fall of 2021 and bring it back in December with any other changes and see if we can use it as a tool to help us with those site visits and some of the questions, mostly targeting so that school would know exactly what to expect. And if they were under a certain conditional approval or it was a focused visit, what that would actually mean to them. So that concludes my report for the Education Committee. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, Rebecca, I guess we'll switch hats again.
Okay, no problem.
And we'll go back now for a report from the Investigative Committee.
Okay, Madam Chair, I do have a motion today to approve, and Chelsea's going to read it.
Madam President, I think Victoria may.
I mean, Victoria.
It's okay.
Wrong name. No, you've been on so many of them. It just came out. Sorry, Chelsea.
No problem.
Sorry, Victoria.
That's all right. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the suggested revisions for the description of the record retention schedule for investigative files.
I so move.
There's a motion. Do we have a second?
Giovanni Bonet, I'll second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Madam President, I'm sorry, who was the second on that?
Giovanni Bonet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca, anything else for your report?
That was it. Thank you.
Okay. The next committee would be the Continuing Education Committee.
Madam President, this is Juliana. I'd like to give a brief update of our meeting. We did have a very good meeting with lots of participation and good dialogues. One of the things that we would like support from the full board on is we have a list of 13 organizations that have not kept up to date their requirements to offer CNEs. And so some of them have been delinquent since 2019 and others is 2020. Of those 13 organizations, we currently believe that 2 of them are wanting to discontinue their providership in offering CNEs, but they just haven't formally gone through the process of relinquishing that. The other remaining 11 organizations, we would like to send notification to and let them know that that they have until our June board meeting to finalize their information to us, give us their annual reports if that's what they're delinquent on. Some of them are delinquent on some fines, but to take care of their delinquencies and let us know what their intention is. And if we don't receive those by June, we would like to then move forward with trying to withdraw their approval to offer CNEs. But right now we're asking to notify them that they are delinquent and that we would like to have that reconciled by the June board meeting. So they would need to get it to us by May. So then the agency staff can take care of that information by June.
Do we need to have a motion to do that?
We discussed at the meeting yesterday, I believe we would need a motion from the full board to support that or approval. I don't know if it needs to be a motion. Carol, maybe you can help me there. Maybe it just needs to be support.
Well, I believe that we do have a motion to send these certified letters, correct, Chelsea?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Chelsea, we'll let you read that motion. Thank you.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to send certified letters notifying delinquent CNE providers of the requirement to submit the annual report to Ksbn prior to 30 days before the June 2021 CNE committee meeting.
And I will make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Adri Goldsmith, I second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
And Madam Chair, we had a couple other motions then for renewals.
Chelsea,
Is there
will okay.
Sure. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for community healthcare system with recommendations to update bibliographies and to include the rapid sequence airway offering bibliography.
I will make that. This is Juliana. I will make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Rebecca. I will second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Faith Community Nurses Association of Oklahoma with a request to include an evaluation for the first offering.
This is Juliana. I will make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Jade Ramsdell. I second that motion.
Thank you, Jade. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Presbyterian Manners of Mid-America with a request to correct the definition of a CNE contact hour and to submit documentation to Ksbn staff to show the change in policy and to submit the missing bibliographies.
This is Juliana, and I will make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Adri Goldsmith, I second.
Thank you, Audrey. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
This is the final motion for C&E Committee. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KSA 65-4207 as written as a part of the 5-year legislative review process.
This is Juliana, and I would make that motion.
A motion, do we have a second?
Carol Bragdon, I will second.
Thank you, Carol. Second, do we have any discussion? Everyone in favor say yes.
Yes.
If you're opposed, say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries. Anything else for your report?
No, that concludes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next we have on the list is APRN Committee, Carol Bragdon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The APRN committee met yesterday afternoon. Our report includes an update on the prescription monitoring program. It continues to be represented very well by our Dr. Bobby Mansfield. She relayed that APRN support has been very much appreciated by the group. The new proposed bill through the House and Senate, however, did not indicate, other than an advanced practice person, did not differentiate between APRN and PA, so that issue still remains, but we certainly have the support to continue with a nursing representation. Funding, as Carol Moreland mentioned earlier, continues to be an issue. We're good this year, but going forward, that may be an issue. But all in all, that program is working well through the guidance of the Pharmacy Board. We had an update from the CNM regulations. Carol Moreland shared with us information she had received from Tucker, the director at the Board of Healing Arts, that the advisory committee was to meet on the 24th. We are unclear as to exactly the membership of that committee, and Carol will be in touch with Tucker to clarify that. Any other comments you had regarding that issue, Carol?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
We also received an update from Amy Seipel, the Ksbn president, regarding the House Bill 2256 and Senate Bill 174. They were able to have committee hearings, but there were no votes taken. They felt like they made good progress in establishing relationship with legislative members, and plan to attack this issue again next year with the legislature. And they were appreciative of the support garnered through the National Council. We received the report on APRN programs approved for licensure from out-of-state programs. And we have a goodly number of nurse practitioners and advanced practice nurses continuing to come into Kansas. And then I believe we have some motions for our 5-year legislative review. Jill?
Yes. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KSA 65-1151 as written.
I will make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Andrea Watson, I'll second.
Thank you. Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KSA 65-1162 as written.
This is Carol Bragdon, and I will bring forth that motion from the committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Rebecca. I'll second.
Motion is second. Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-13-111 as written.
This is Carol Bragg, I will bring forth that motion from the committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Juliana and I will second.
Motion and second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And the final motion, is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-13-113 as written.
This is Carol Bragg, I will bring that motion forth from the committee.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Rebecca. I'll second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Anything else for your report, Carol?
I believe that concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move to Practice and IV Therapy Advisory Committee. Rebecca Sander.
Madam Chair, we had a change in the chair and vice chair of this committee because this was Mandy's committee. So I am going to be the chair, and Adri Goldsmith was graciously accepted the vice chair position. So thank you, Adri, for doing that. We had a nursing school update on the medications for emergency use, which was previously House Bill 2488. We received an update on that, but there's nothing to report about the outcomes of that one yet. It's far from doing anything at the moment. And then we're finishing up unfinished business on the IV therapy questions and stuff like that. And then we also have several motions under our 5-year legislative review to approve today. And Victoria, I got the name right, is going to read those.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-3-103 as written.
I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Adri Goldsmith, I second.
Thank you. We have motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-3-105 as written.
This is Rebecca. I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Giovanni Gone, I'll second.
Thank you for that. We have a motion and second. Discussion. All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-3-111 as written.
This is Rebecca. I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Adri Goldsmith, I second.
Thank you. A motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-3-113 as written.
This is Rebecca. I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Carol Bragdon. I'll second.
Thank you, Carol. Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-7-104 as written.
This is Rebecca. I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Adri Goldsmith, I second.
Thank you. Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-7-108 as written.
This is Rebecca. I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Jade Ramsdell. I second.
Thank you. Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And this is our last one. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KSA 65-4209 as written.
This is Rebecca. I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Adri Goldsmith, I second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you, Victoria, for that.
That ends my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We're going to move right to the Finance Committee report, and that's Carol Bragdon. Carol, I think you're muted.
Sorry, don't know how that happened. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Committee met earlier this morning. We reviewed the fiscal year financial reports for 21, 22, and 23. Everything seems to be on track, and budget is moving along as we would expect. We reviewed the need to purchase some additional laptops for staff. With the continuing remote work, we're finding that we do need some additional laptops for support of the agency's work, and that was approved, and we will have a motion to that effect. We hired an update on the purchase of our scanners, and I think that is the general nature of our report today. So Jill, if I may have that motion.
Yes. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the purchase of replacement scanners for the Ksbn office. Excuse me.
I will bring that motion forth from the committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Gita Noble, and I will second.
Thank you for that, Gita. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve the purchase of 8 laptops for the Ksbn office to have as backup. Authorization up to $25,000 for these purchases.
Madam Chair, this is Carol Bragdon. I will bring forth that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This Adri Goldsmith, I second.
So it's Goldsmith.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KSA 74-1108 as written.
This is Carol Bragdon. Will bring that motion forth from the committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Gita Noble. I will second.
Thank you for that. A motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And the last one, is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? It was moved to approve KAR 60-11-119 as written.
This is Carol Bragdon. I bring that motion forth from the committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Gita Noble. I will second.
Thank you, Gita. Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
And that concludes the report for the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to keep marching through the agenda. So the next is unfinished business, possible revisions to the quarterly newsletter. Carol Moreland, do you want to talk about that or? Okay.
Yeah, Madam President. On page 11 in your packet, we had some just general discussion last time. I brought forth some possible revisions we would like to make to the quarterly newsletter. We'd really like to make the newsletter something that people refer or licensees refer to much more than they do now. So we felt like there were some revisions that could be made in that. And so I just kind of put these revisions down. Now, just to kind of tell you the timeline, the next newsletter, we'll have to have the information ready by April 19th. So I think we probably have time to make this happen. Then hopefully we would see the actual published newsletter more toward the end of May, because I think the camera ready date is May 18th. And then it goes, you know, we get it electronic now. We don't actually mail it anymore. So anyway, these are the revisions that we kind of talked about last time, and I just wanted to put them down on paper just one more time to make sure that this is what you all wanted. Of course, the mission of the board needs to be on there. We thought it would be nice to have a message from the board president, a message from the executive administrator, and then sections for the following: practice, education, C&E, the nurse licensure compact, and advanced practice. And then we would no longer have the committee meeting minutes, which is basically what we put in there now. We wouldn't have those. We would just have a link to where they could be found on our website. I mean, that will give us some room right there to not do that. We thought it would be helpful to have a description of each committee and when there will be openings on that committee. That way people can kind of plan ahead if they have an interest in continuing nursing education, that we may have an opening coming up, you know, this fall or something along that line. Sometimes we have trouble getting people interested to serve on the committees. And so hopefully maybe a little bit of upfront work might help. I don't know, but anyway. Any open board member positions, and then give them the link to the appointment information on the governor's website so that they know how to get that. Reminder about change of address. That seems to be a big issue, that they don't know that they're supposed to let us know when they move. A method in which the licensees can submit suggestions for improvement in the newsletter, a method in which the licensee can submit a question and we will respond, how to contact their legislator, and then if there's scholarly articles in the Journal of Nursing Regulation and we get permission to publish those in our newsletter, I think that would be helpful. So based on your feedback, we would like to try these revisions, at least part of these revisions for the one that we will be sending the information on April 19th. We'll certainly try to get all of these in there, but just kind of wanted to get your final yes, no, whatever about these.
Do you need a motion to move forward with this, or?
Yeah.
I have, under the reminder about the change of address, would that be a good place to put a reminder about update your name if needed?
Mm-hmm. Very good idea. Yes.
Anything else the committee has to add to this suggested list?
I think it looks good, Carol.
Any other discussion? And do you need a motion to do this, or just general consensus that we can move forward?
It'd probably be nice to have a motion so that we have it for.
Jill, do you have one ready?
No, we will have to write one up. So if someone could help me with the wording.
That would be great.
So I move to.
Does somebody want to make that motion?
Approve the revisions as submitted to the board this morning, or as submitted? Is that how? Will that cover it? As written? As written?
For the quarterly newsletter. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Where it goes in
Okay.
the quarterly newsletter. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
I so move.
So let me reread that. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the revisions to the quarterly newsletter as written.
This is Rebecca. I so move.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Andrew Goldsmith, I second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next, is that all we had with that, Carol?
Yes.
Then the next unfinished business is possible revisions to the annual report.
Okay, this, I'm sorry, this is Carol Moreland again, and this is on page 12 in your packet. Again, we kind of verbally talked about a few things last time, but I wanted to get them down on paper, and there's kind of a decision that you need to make here. So what I will do first is just kind of go through the proposed revisions, and then I will kind of tell you the decision that you need to make. We thought, again, we do an annual report and you see it on our website. It's we have it available electronic. We don't send it out, you know, in paper copy or anything like that. However, if you remember from when we met last time, the format is extremely outdated. It's a lot of data. And it was just probably time to update that to make the format look much better and be more usable. So the revisions that we talked about doing, make sure the mission of the board is there, a message from the board president and a message from the executive administrator. Again, this would cover a fiscal year. Okay, this is not quarterly like the newsletter. This covers a fiscal year. And then a history for the events that occurred during that fiscal year that the report covers. Right now, we have probably in our annual report, we have 12 pages of history, almost since the Board of Nursing started. That's great history, don't get me wrong, but it takes up a lot of room in the annual report. So our recommendation is to have a place on our website where that history is available. So if anyone wants that, we do get questions, you know, from somebody who's sometimes doing a paper or something like that, and they want to know about the history. This would be a great place to refer them to on our website because somebody has done a lot of work putting that together. So we do not want to lose that. We just don't think it needs to be in the annual report every year. Again, a facelift for the format of the annual report, use more graphs, etc., like that. Our vendor that does our newsletter is willing to do the revisions to this annual report, and I think they will do a good job. They've contacted us about setting up meetings, and we've kind of told them that we wanted to discuss this with you. So I anticipate the meeting will take place shortly after this meeting so we can get moving on this. Again, we want to include a section for each division in the agency. This would include their data also: administration, licensing, education, continuing education, investigative, discipline, and information technology. Because every one of those sections has something to contribute to the annual report. It's not just how many people we license or how many investigations we've done. It's the whole picture of the agency. We would also include the board's response to the COVID in fiscal year 21. We could include, you know, a brief overview of kind of some of the executive orders and House bill. I'm not sure how much detail we want to go into with that. That's something kind of to think about. The goal is to have the annual report available on our website after the board reviews at a September meeting. This will be a little bit different than how we do it now. We've always held it until the following March so that the calendar year of NCLEX pass rates could go in there. But it really delays the annual report coming out.
Right.
So we had talked about this last time, doing it a little bit different. The NCLEX pass rates will be in there, but they will not be, the years will be just a little bit different than how we're doing it now, because we've received feedback that we're not very timely in getting our annual reports out on our website. You know, some of the specific raw data that we have now could be available on our website so that if someone really wanted to drill down to the ethnicity of all of our licensees, we could certainly have that data for them. But it just is probably not something that a lot of people look at in our annual report. And then we also wanted to include an overview of the budget for the fiscal year. We've never really had anything in our annual report about the budget, but we are a fee-funded agency, so we survive because of the licensing fees. So, you know, we need to be transparent about how we're using their licensing fees so that they better understand the budget, I believe. And then we always have to report performance metrics from our agency in our annual budget that I submit. And those don't always show up on our annual report the way that we've been doing it. And so it doesn't make much sense to me. We do performance metrics for some this way, and we do performance metrics for others this way. And it would be nice if we could do it consistently. That would be a lot easier for our agency. So those are the things that we're proposing that go into that. Now, the question that I have for you is fiscal year 20. If we do it the way that we're doing it now, we would get that on our website soon after this meeting because you've reviewed the pass rates, you approved those. However, if you're wanting the new format, what we could work on is getting fiscal year 20 into this new format, if the vendor could do it, and then bring it back to you all in June of 2021, get your approval, and then get it posted to our website. So it would delay it being posted about 3 months if you want to do it that way. Or if you want us to do fiscal year 20 the old way, we can certainly do that. That's just a question for you. And then fiscal year 21 annual report, what I'd like to do is bring that for your approval in September 2021 and then get it posted on our website. doing that way, it would actually be posted 6 months earlier than how we do it now. I hope that makes sense. It's a little confusing because everything in these annual reports are fiscal year, which is July 1st until June 30th, or through June 30th. However, the thing that's different is the NCLEX pass rates. Those are always reported out in calendar years. And so, you know, that's been what has slowed things down a little bit. But if we do it the new way, it wouldn't really slow it down. So if you have questions or anything, I would be more than glad to try to answer your questions. I know it's a little confusing.
This is Carol Bragdon. I think the suggestions are excellent, Carol. I really like the idea of a new format. It looks forward thinking, and I think we should proceed sooner rather than later.
Any other discussion? So I guess the question is, do we want to try to, if we're in agreement to accept the changes, to try to do that for this year or to get it ready for next year? What's the discussion there? Carol just said sooner than later, so I guess that meant this year.
And this Carol Moreland, just to clarify, we haven't really put this timeline out there for the vendor yet. So that will be discussion that we have as to whether they could get this put together by June so that we could bring it back. So that would be our hope. But again, unless Adrian has had some discussion about that timeline.
Yes, thank you, Carol, Madam President, members. I have reached out to the vendor and they've stated, you know, that they're willing to start working with us, but they want to convene kind of a meeting so that we can go over all the details based upon what we found from here. So although I can't promise they would have it available, they certainly know that it's in the works and they're excited to participate with it.
So we can certainly shoot for bringing the fiscal year 20 with these changes back in June, if at all possible, if that's what you would like, and then bring the fiscal year 21 in September.
Would you go ahead and post the NCLEX pass rates that we approved? You'd go ahead and
Yeah,
post.
we always post those in a different place on our website, so we would not delay those being on our website.
So Jill, do you have a motion or do we need to help you write one?
We will need to write one. This is what I came up with, and if you needed to make any corrections. Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the revisions to the annual report as written. Do we need to put anything else beside that, or is that good?
With the implementation date, if possible, June. I mean, how do you want me to say that? So we have some.
Okay.
Well, she put as written, and that's part of it. So
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, so
Extra.
I would make that motion.
This is
I
Carol
second.
Bragdon. I'll second.
Carol Bragdon seconds that. We have motion. Any other discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
Madam President,
Yes.
this is Carol, and I've just been notified that the other scholarship winner is on. I think maybe we had a little difficulty here or something. So if you want to go back, that would be Amy, I believe. If you want to go back
So
to bring Amy
that's
on.
Amy.
Yes, Amy is there. Yes.
Correct.
Amy, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm just going to start my video. Sorry.
There you go. So is your last name now Riffle or different last name?
It's Ribeiro now. Riffle.
Ribeiro, okay.
Yeah.
So would you tell us, I see your director and the dean for you, Lisa Larson and Dr. Cynthia Teal. This is your scholarship certificate that we're going to be sending to you with your check.
Okay.
I was just wondering if you could tell us what school you're from and what you plan to do after graduation.
Currently I am at Salina Area Technical College. It's in Salina, Kansas, obviously. And I will finish with my ADN May 8th. We graduate, and then I'm going to start my bachelor's degree after that. So it'll be the later summer, August.
I misspoke about your director. It's Lori Faber. That's your director that you have there. So
that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. That's exciting. Well, thanks for coming on and letting us know you were on there.
I apologize. I had a wheel that just kept turning and turning. You would think I would be more tech savvy, but I'm really not. I'm an old soul.
No, you're talking to the group that knows all about it. So we appreciate you being persistent so we could talk to you today. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to move to new business, June 2021 committee and board meetings. The question there is virtual or in person. We had some discussion about that. Adrian, did you say National Council is doing everything virtual to the end of the year?
Well, at least throughout the delegate assembly, which is in August.
Yeah.
I don't know that they've actually made any decision past that, but if I was guessing, I would probably say that that's a high probability, just because scheduling hotels and stuff like that, you have to take into consideration basically all the members, and so some have restrictions, some don't. So if I was guessing, I would say yes, but can't speak publicly past August anyway.
So some discussion about what our plans are. Do we want to do virtual again for June and then evaluate again in its June meeting and see about September, or some discussion? I know the new members are probably really itching to actually see how this really works in person, because this is all they know. And this is a lot different than what we do when we meet in person. Not a lot different, but it does feel different. So do you need a motion?
Madam President, may I make a comment? Just from a logistical standpoint, the tech team was introduced to the new audio visual equipment that was installed on the 5th floor in our room that we use for board meetings. We have not tested it for a board meeting, obviously. And so some agencies are going to attempt to use it, I think, in the coming weeks. But some of them are not allowing the public to come in, because in order to have social distancing in such a small room, they're needing to stretch the board out long ways, which unfortunately doesn't sit forward in front of a camera. And so some of the logistical things that we have to take into consideration is that if some of you were remote and some were on site, let's say, for instance, we would have to be real careful about the microphones and the way that that works, so that there wasn't feedback and that sort of thing. So basically, we just, either direction that you guys go, we will obviously need a plan, but we just kind of need to know a direction.
And this is Carol, if I can just add a couple of comments. I mean, the thing to remember, and of course the new ones don't really know this, but on at least the education committee, it is nothing to totally pack that room down on the 5th floor. And you're not going to be able to do that. You know, if you decide to have it in person and you decide to have the audience in person, we're going to have a bigger area. So we're going to need a little bit of time to find a bigger area. And I guess maybe this is a question that I have for maybe Jan. I know she's on here. If our board was to meet in person, but still require the audience to join by like YouTube or something, is that okay?
The temporary regulation mentions having limiting the people that can attend at the meeting. So I don't know as though you could block out all of the public attending if the whole board was there in that room for the meeting, or some of the board was at a specific place, same time, like, on the 5th floor. So it does address limiting the number of the public who could attend. Now, how you do that, it doesn't address that. So I don't know if it would be, they'd have to send you an email and kind of do a first come, first serve type of thing so that you could then, say something, well, sorry, we're already filled, but you can attend by YouTube. That would be something that would have to be kind of thought through to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because some of our committees meetings are attended very, very heavily. And
some of your board meetings are too. You fill up the 5th. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just something, just a consideration, I think, of what we have.
And alternatively, if we weren't able to accommodate that, then we might have to look at another location, which then scheduling becomes somewhat problematic. I have some ideas in my head of where we could look, but, we would have to ensure that they were available. And then we have the staff that need to be in the rooms too. So a lot of moving parts. But
some agencies do, or buildings, I should say, have like auditoriums where you can handle a lot of people and perhaps do more of the social distancing. But I know Eisenhower has one, Memorial has one, but again, it's all whether facilities management would authorize someone to hold the open public meetings there, because it's also the issue of having to clean and sanitize and everything after a meeting too. And if it's a large auditorium, that's probably, things that they would consider. I understand other agencies have tried to use the one at Eisenhower, and they have been closed ever since the pandemic, and they're still not opening them up.
And we have power issues. We have the internet because all your packets are electronic, and we provide that to the public. So, all of that would have to be evaluated beforehand.
Well, it sounds like that if we had a general consensus that we would meet virtually again for June, that would give us some time to work out some of those bugs, and maybe we'll have some more information about the social distancing events when we come a little farther down this calendar year. Do you need a motion to do this, Carol, or can we just?
I think probably if you just direct us that that's what you want to do, is just do it virtual for the committee and task forces and board, and I guess all meetings. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All meetings.
Okay. So, Jill, do I need to make a motion?
I can just note in the minutes that it was a consensus of the group to hold it virtually, all meetings on June 2021 for June 2021.
Any objections to that? Sounds like you have our blessing.
Okay.
One more time, we'll practice a Zoom. One more time.
And just for some clarification, do you want us to go ahead and start to evaluate what would all be required and needed to hold an in-person meeting thereafter, or a hybrid or something of that nature?
I think so. To look at September, we need some kind of guidance when we get there. If it just is not going to work, then it's not going to work until we get completely past this. I don't know, but if you could find out some variables there so we could have some more information, we'll do that in June.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions there? Are we okay to go on? That would be all the committees, all the meetings, everything will be virtual again. The next thing I have under new business is review of articles. Seems like I'm picking on Carol today, but I'm going to let her talk a little bit about that. It was a review of some articles that we put on the agenda here.
Yeah, this starts on page 13 in your packet. We have articles that we just like to review. We probably should do it maybe on an annual basis and see if the board wants to have any changes to these articles. I think for the new board members, we did discuss these articles. We mentioned them anyway. We didn't go into great detail in your orientation, but if you've looked at these articles, you will see that it covers a lot of things. It covers the membership, you know, how's the board made up, all of that, qualifications, all of that. It also talks about the responsibility of board members. You know, it does that on page 15, you know, that you need to attend the meetings, you need to participate in the meetings, the committees of which you're assigned to, and all of that. It also goes into the officers, and this is on page 16. I think this is really good for you all to review, especially before the September meeting, because the election of officers is done at the September meeting. You know, president, vice president, and secretary. So if the new ones or anybody else has any questions about what's the responsibility or anything, you'll find that on page 16 and 17. And then it kind of talks about my responsibility on page 17, in case you have questions about that. And then it gets into the meetings on page 18. It talks about, you know, a minimum of 4 regular meetings, when they're going to be held, all of that. And then the annual meeting is held in September. It also talks about how we have to do notice of the public, how there has to be a quorum. It also talks about special meetings that can be called if need be. Then on page 20, it starts into the committees, and it kind of has an overview of each committee. You know, what's the membership of the committee? What's the purpose of the committee? And I will just tell you something that has kind of come up, and this is just, I'm just giving you feedback. You can, you know, as board members, that's my role, is to give you feedback. But there's been some questions. The Practice IV Therapy Advisory Committee, and it starts talking about this on page 21. You know, there's been questions about perhaps maybe the IV therapy part would be better with the C&E committee. Reason being is a lot of the IV therapy providers are also C&E providers. Plus the IV therapy providers and this have to do like an annual report, and they have a lot of the same requirements of the C&E providers. So the practice committee is not always aware of all of that, where I think the C&E committee may be a little bit more aware of the process. I'm not sure the history of why practice and IV therapy were put together, but I just wanted to give you that feedback, whatever you choose to do with that feedback. And it just kind of goes in through every committee and what the membership has to be. And, you know, we have to make sure that we have a minimum amount of board members for each. You know, as a reminder for the new ones, in September, before the September meeting, we send you a sheet in which you can put down your preference for committees that you want to serve on. So just because you're on a committee now doesn't always mean that you're on that committee for the whole 4 years that you have a term as a board member. You know, you do have the option to change committees if you find that it's just not a really good fit for you or something, but you can always go back to these articles, and I think it's a very good description of what's the purpose of that committee. Talks about other things, you know, and so I just put this, I talked to Patsy about putting this on the agenda because it hasn't been reviewed for probably a couple of years. And I thought with the new board members, it would be really good if there was an opportunity that there could be discussion about these if you want them. Or probably what I would ask you to do is when you're ready is to maybe approve these so that we have a new review date and stuff on them. So if you have any questions for me.
Carol, this is Carol Bragdon. I have one comment on
We lost you. Your voice.
I'm sorry, on section 4 of the committee section, it's on page 10 of 13 on mine, where it talks about the advanced practice committee membership.
Okay.
3 board members, APRN, and 4 non-board members representing each of the categories of advanced practice nurses. CNSs may be very difficult to find as there are no programs producing CNSs. And if we do make any revisions, I would perhaps say 2 nurse practitioners as opposed to, or even 1. There just really aren't enough nurse practitioners around to make that viable anymore. So
You mean CNSs? Not enough
CNSs, I mean, it really has been usurped by the nurse practitioner groups. So, you know, it's something to think about. I don't think we'll have to do it today, but if we cannot find people, then that's coming down the pike.
Good point.
So some of the conversation we had before we put this on the agenda was maybe that the group as a whole could look at these and maybe bring back some suggestions, just as Carol was speaking to. There might be other questions that we'd have, especially with new members. They're going to see some of those things a little different than the rest of us that have been used to how we've been doing it. So does the group have an objection to taking these, looking at it, and bringing back some recommendations to the board in June? Is that what we were talking about, Carol, possibly?
Good. Yeah, if that's what you want to do. Yeah.
Is that general consensus? We could do that. That means some more homework. There should be a big bold sign that says if you get on this board, you're going to work. You're not going to just get to vote. I don't know, but we appreciate your input if we could have that. Is that what you need, Carol? Is that good enough? Have any questions about some of the things that are in there, though? Reach out to either Carol or myself, and I'll try to answer as best I can, or we'll get some better answers for that. So we can do that. So can we move to number 3, executive session? Okay. Jen put together a motion slip for us. Jen, my own question is, as we always do every session, is we have to say how many minutes we're going to be in that session. Do you have an idea?
Will and I were thinking probably about 30 minutes.
Okay.
If we need more, we can always come back and ask for more, you know, do another executive session motion. But if we go too long, then you just kind of sit there and look at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So everybody should have got some information about a call-in number that you will be able to call on your phone. Put your Zoom on mute and call on your phone, and then we can talk to you that way in the executive session. Is that right, Adrienne? Is that how we have it set up?
Yes, I believe so.
I did not. Madam President, I do not have that information. Where would I find it, please?
I'm going to text it to everyone right now.
Okay, thank you.
I just got.
Okay, so the way this works, and please correct me if I'm not saying this right, is we're going to read a motion. It's going to give us the projected 30 minutes that we'll have an executive session. It will not be open to the public. It will just be the members on the board and whoever else is designated to be in this meeting. And then after those 30 minutes, we will come back and reconvene and continue the meeting. So are we ready for the motion, Jill?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion pursuant to KSA 75-4319 small b2? I move that the board recess into executive session for 30 minutes and reconvene at 12:30 p.m. The remote meeting will be reconvened by Zoom as stated in the notice of the meeting that was sent to individuals who requested the notice and as published on the board's website at www.ksbn.kansas.gov. The justification is consultation with the board's legal counsel, Assistant Attorneys General Janet Ort, William Stepnick, Rachel Kinney, and Charles Mosher that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. The subject matter to be discussed in the executive session concerns legal issues regarding information on application. The board's executive administrator, Carol Moreland, is included as the client.
I will make that motion. Do we have a second?
Gwen Lloyd, I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Any abstentions? Okay, that motion carries. And you have
And
a
the message should have been sent. It will come from a group that says INA. So you should be receiving it. If you haven't, please let me know.
And please make sure and mute your microphones and shut off your video.
Adrian, are you still there?
I am, yes.
Are you sending that in our email?
Is this, I can't tell who's talking.
Oh, it's Gita, sorry.
Oh, I get it. I can, certainly. Yes.
Well, where else would I find that? I'm trying to.
I had it. It should have went to your cell phone since it's our emergency contact info. That's what I use it for. But I could certainly send it to the email as well.
No, I have it here. Okay, I'm good. I can do that. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Sure thing.
And just one final reminder, make sure you get your video too.
This is Patsy. Colton, are we all back on the group or?
Other than the people I can't see, I think we are.
You might want to just take a roll call to see who's there and who we've missed.
Would you like me to do that, Mrs. Carroll? Madam Chair, do you want me to do a roll call, Madam President?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Thank you.
Okay. We know Patsy Zeller's here.
Yep.
Rebecca Sander.
Here.
Okay. Juliana.
Here.
Carol Bragdon.
Here.
Adri.
Here.
Gwen.
Here.
Andrea.
Here.
Giovanni.
Here.
Ida.
Here.
Jade.
Here.
Okay, you got all your board members.
Okay, so thank you for helping with that, and we appreciate the council work there. So I guess we'll move to the agenda for 2021 board meeting. I think we just talked about another executive session, so we could probably put that on. We talked about bringing back a review of the articles. Any suggestions for that?
The annual report.
Anything else that anybody can think of right now we need to put back on that? Okay, hearing none, I guess we'll go to adjournment. Do I need a motion to do that, Jill?
Yeah, I can just make one for you.
Okay.
Is there a board member who would like to make the following motion? I move to adjourn.
This is Rebecca. I so move.
This is Gwen, I second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed, say no.
Before we adjourn, may I make one comment?
Sure, absolutely. Sorry.
It's just a logistical thing. Wanted to reach out to the board members. We're going to probably be getting with you to bring back in your iPads. We need to do some updates and whatnot, so we may kind of stagger it. And then also, before our next board meeting, if you could kind of get into the practice of maybe reviewing the iPad to make sure it works each month, just to make sure there's no issues, to get into your email, that sort of thing. It's helpful so that we can kind of troubleshoot it before the meeting. Then, of course, if you have any issues before that, please let us know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your persistence today. It looks like that motion carried, so I think we're done. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.